At first, she believed her problems were simple. A broken house, a tired husband, termites eating away at the wood. But in truth, it was her heart being eaten away, piece by piece. Loneliness pushed her into the arms of someone forbidden, her husband's father. And what followed was a story of silence, betrayal, and the desperate need to feel alive again.
Drop a like, and let's get started.
You know when you start telling a story, and even you can't believe it happened? Well, my name is Claire. I'm 29. And in the last few weeks, my life turned into one of those movies you secretly watch and feel ashamed to admit you enjoyed. I'm married to Jake, 35, night security guard at a gas station. No, it's not romantic. We barely saw each other. And when we did, he was too tired to even look me in the eyes. I got used to it, because we get used to everything, even emptiness. Our apartment was small, cramped, but it was ours. Until the termites showed up first. I noticed some strange dust in the corners, little holes in the wood. Jake said it was nothing. It wasn't. The wood was turning to powder. We tried a handyman, then a specialist. Result, urgent fumigation. A whole week out of the apartment, and no money for a hotel. That's when Jake said, "Let's go to my father's place. He's got room." My chest froze. His father, Charles, a man of few words, eyes that seemed to read you, even when you didn't want to be read. He always gave me chills, but I had no choice. We arrived on a Friday night. The house felt like an old reliquary. Heavy furniture, thick silence. Jake was comfortable. I wasn't. When he left for work, I was alone with Charles. He made soup, invited me to dinner, and even sitting there with a spoon in my hand, I couldn't tell if it was kindness or something else. He looked at me like he was seeing something I hadn't seen in myself for a long time. And that disarmed me. The next days, I tried to avoid him, cleaned the house, helped where I could, but he was always there, quiet, observing. You know how sometimes a silence feels heavier than a scream? That's what it was like every time he walked into the room. One hot night, after a long day of cleaning, he brought pizza and 2 beers. Jake was at work. I said, "Just one, okay?" He smiled. "Just because of the heat." We ate on the couch. He told me a story from his youth. I laughed. And in that laugh, something slipped. A comfort I hadn't felt in years. When I stood up, I caught his eyes on me. Too long to be casual. And what scares me the most, I liked it. That night, I didn't sleep. Not the next ones either. Jake would come home in the morning exhausted, drink his coffee, and collapse. I'd stay there, empty. And I realized the problem wasn't the termites. It was our life, already crumbling from the inside. One morning, I woke early, sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, and saw Charles in the garden watering his plants. His movements were slow, meticulous. He seemed to have more patience with those plants than Jake had with me. And that broke me. I remembered our first year of marriage. Jake used to leave me little notes hidden around the house. Now, he barely touched me. I kept asking myself, how do we get from love notes to silence? How does that even happen without us noticing? And that's when everything changed. I went to grab something on his phone. Mine was dead. When I unlocked it, a notification popped up. Thinking of last night. It was from a woman, Camila, or Cammy as she signed, Latina, dangerous curves, messages full of emojis, photos, intimate. I felt the ground give way. Jake, the man who hardly touched me, was having an affair with a woman he clearly knew well. I left the phone exactly where it was. Didn't say a word. But inside, something exploded. That night, I dressed up. Wore a tight dress I hadn't touched in months. Went downstairs. Charles was watching TV. When he saw me, he froze. I said, "Want another beer?" He hesitated, then nodded. I sat down beside him. Close. Too close. I handed him the can. Our fingers touched. And in that second, there was no going back. The kiss was slow, then urgent. His touch was firm, but careful, like someone who had been waiting a long time. And I let myself go. For the first time in so long, I felt wanted, seen, chosen. The following days were a game of silences. When Jake was around, nothing had happened. But when he left, me and Charles became different people. Nights of heat and confessions, of guilt and pleasure. I knew it was wrong, but in the middle of all that chaos, it was the only place I felt alive. One afternoon, after it had already happened, Charles asked me to help him find some old photos. We went up to the attic. He opened a wooden box. Inside, letters from Jake's mother, long gone. He showed me one in particular. In it, she told him he needed to be less cold, more present, more of a man. He read it aloud, then looked at me and said, "Maybe I'm learning too late." The night before we were supposed to go back, everything collapsed. Jake found messages, saw something he shouldn't have. He stormed into the kitchen, pale as a ghost. His hands shook as he threw the phone on the table. His voice cracked. "Claire, why? Are you trying to destroy me?" I tried to speak, but nothing came out. Charles entered the room, startled, and Jake's eyes, oh God, his eyes filled with the kind of pain I had never seen. Not anger alone, but betrayal. Deep, cutting. His voice broke into a cry. "My own father, with my wife! How could you? How could either of you do this to me?" He looked at me, trembling, waiting for an explanation that didn't exist. And then at his father. The disappointment on his face was worse than rage. It was the look of someone who had lost everything at once. A wife, a father, a family. That was the last night. We returned to the apartment. Absolute silence. Days later, Jake and I separated. He moved back to his father's house. Irony, or punishment, I don't know. I stayed. In our apartment, now empty, but for the first time, full of questions. I don't know if I regret it. I don't know if I'd do it differently. But I know that in that house, between termites and silences, I discovered a woman I never knew existed. Last week, I received a letter from Charles. Handwritten, no return address. It simply said, "Thank you for seeing me. And you? Have you ever felt so invisible that you did something unforgivable? Because I'm still trying to understand who I am now."
So that's it. Today I live in the apartment, now empty, but for the first time, full of questions. I don't know if I regret it. I don't know if Jake deserved what I did. And Charles? I don't even know what to think. Last month, Jake and I decided to separate. I never told him about what I saw on his phone back then. Maybe his father did. Today, from what I know, he's dating that Camilla, and that proves it wasn't all in my head. Sometimes I catch myself thinking about what happened. Charles still sends me messages sometimes, but I never reply. And I go on with my life. But I carry this guilt of having been with my father-in-law. I know many women will judge me for this, but I really want to know, what would you do in my place? Did I go too far? Did Jake deserve it? And Charles, how much of the blame is his? If you can, leave your opinion in the comments, because I really need to hear it.